Professor Gavor. I want to go over some of the week one results. I can't put the solutions on here because there's still one student that hasn't done it. If the student drops, I will put the solution on, or if the student does the homework, I will put the solution on here. The highest score was 50 points. One person got that. But the people that got 45 or higher, which is 90% or more, were 43% of you, or 6 students. In the 40 to 45 range, which is a B kind of grade, an 80% range, we had 4 students, or 29%. And an equal the number of students did less than 40. If you're in this area, it's probably time to step it up. And a lot of you did the right kinds of problems, but I took points off because you did not pay attention to what I had said and do all of the calculations in Excel. I don't care if you have the right answer. I want you to have the right answer. I expect you to have the right answer, but I also expect the right answer to be done in Excel rather than do it on a spreadsheet or do it on a calculator and then just type the number into Excel. That is unacceptable to me. I can't make it any more clear than that. Okay, so, and also formatting of the problems. Here's my sheet, and I can make this a little bit bigger, of that first case study. I didn't put anything in text boxes or answers, but we had soft drinks, we had the prices, variable costs, margin, percent of revenue, and then I had allocated fixed costs, break-even points, revenue at break-even, revenue per person for attendance of 60K, revenue per person for attendance at 35K at the break-even point. I did it per game and per season in each of those. So no matter how you did it, I have a template that I can look at the solution. It's organized, it's easy to follow, and basically we're looking at this 0.72, 72 cents, or $1.23. Again, I laugh at the textbook that you can't go and spend $1.50 for a soft drink and $2 for a hot dog at a college football game. Good luck. Anyway, here's the numbers that they gave us in the problem. I set it up here, and I would tap into those any place down here. So I would notice per game, the fixed costs were that. So when I multiplied the 25% times the fixed cost, I would get that number. All right, enough of that. Let's look at this one next. And here's someone's solution. This is how I want to see it, basically. This is the problem where, X number of students got A's, X number of students got B's out of 300 students. How do you figure out what the probability of getting a C was based on this history? So if I make it bigger, we can look at it. This is perfectly done. Everything is the same decimal places except for the 1, which I would have probably changed that. And let me make this a little bit bigger. Or bigger yet. And I would probably add 2 decimal places there so that it's all lined up. Here's the answer is bolded, and the probability of a student receiving the C in the course is 0.3 or 30%. That's enough for me to know that you know how to do the problem. The only other thing I might have done here, and this is just me, you don't have to, I found this fine. I would have probably bolded the titles, and I would probably put some sort of header color on it just to give it something. Maybe I would have given it the same color as the text box just to make it look good. Okay? So that's that one. Let's not save it. And I think there's another one in here somewhere. Another student, let's look at another problem. Here's food and beverage. There's no text box in this, but it's well laid out. And I can clearly see where the answer is. I would take off points for not having a text box. let's admit it. Some of these problems are pretty easy, and it's not clear. It's pretty clear what the answer is. But other places, like especially in week 2, you're going to have to write down what the answer is and maybe highlight where the answer is coming from in yellow. So I know that you put the right numbers in the QM and then pluck the right answer out and express the answer, interpreted what the answer is supposed to be. So I'll be more sticky on that. Okay, so let's get out of here. Now, if we look at week 2, week 1 is all done. Week 2, there is decision analysis, PowerPoint, and there's a video of the lecture. There's also how to download QM and the Thompson lumber example that's in the PowerPoint and the video, and how I use QM to do that. I would watch that. I would watch the video lecture. I would use QM. You don't have to use QM, but if you don't use QM, your table has to be, you have to make your own table and put all the calculations in. Up to you. As long as I can follow it and see it, and I'm sometimes impressed. You will learn more if you program it yourself, if you make your own. So it really depends on what you want to do and how easy you want to make it. Note, this class, people say it's the hardest class they take. Yeah, okay, I take a little pride in that. But I also want to make sure that, it is quantitative methods. It's probably one of the more analytic classes in the program, at least the required class. So we have 2 discussions as well. So this week, all we have is the homework and 2 discussions. We still have the paper on sales and operations planning that's due at the end of this week as well, but you had 2 weeks to do that. Someone asked me, how long should the paper be? Well, someone always asks me how long the paper should be, because I never actually put that anywhere. I don't provide that information because I believe we're professionals, and in a professional setting, guess what? If you go to your boss and say, how long should the report be, boss? And I was your boss, I would wonder, well, why did I hire this person? It should be long enough to cover all the material, answer all the questions or queries raised in the problem statement or the paper assignment in this case. But it shouldn't be so long that it bores me. My attention span is not much more than yours. Now, if you write 300 words, you better be a darn good writer. If you're not, and some people are, I look at, sometimes I get a paper that's 300 words and I'm like, I'm going to rip this apart. But the longer I read it, I'm like, darn, this is pretty good. Wow, this is one of 1,000 that's a really good writer, and it shows. Most people aren't. Most people that turn in a 300-word paper are just lazy and don't do the complete assignment. Now, if you turn in a 2,000-word paper, I'm going to look at that and go, oh my God. I mean, I'll read it and I'll grade it. That's better than a 300-word paper. But there's 2 reasons for that. Either you're trying to impress me, which is not necessary, overly impress me, which is not necessary, or you really got into it. I like that, but it's not a requirement. So how long should the paper be? Long enough and not too long. Probably 500 to 1,000 words, sweet spot being 700. Here's a few tips. I like bullet points. This is a quantitative methods class. I'm a process-driven person. If there is a process, label, show the process. Show the process steps. Number them. Bullet them. Don't put them in a paragraph. I don't like that. And then explain what the steps are. So look at the rubric, look at the assignment, and make sure that you hit all the points. Okay? Discussion. First one, good and bad decisions. Give an example of a good decision that you made that resulted in a bad outcome. Also, give an example of a bad decision that you made that seemed like a bad decision at the time, but that had a good outcome. Why was each decision good or bad? What assumptions were involved in your decisions? Did you go with gut feel, or did you use the data at hand? Always a good thing to look at. So answer the question posed above by Wednesday of the week. Comment on at least 2 other persons. This discussion itself is due 15. You see Stephen has already done it. Michael, Kristen, everybody has actually posted kind of on this. All right, let's go back and look at discussion 2 for this week. Using models in the real world. In these lectures, I presented a couple models, decision-making models to help craft and structure your decision, where there's states of nature and some alternatives that you have. Would you use any of these methods if you were the sole decision maker? Would you use any of these methods if you're part of a committee that includes your boss in making the decision? So post your answer in a new thread on Thursday and comment on at least one other person's posting by the due date, which is Sunday. And then the homework, if we go to the homework, and the homework is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems. Every problem you have to have is a decision table. So if you try to answer the case study, which some people try to do, without a decision table, you're going to get like most of the points off. There's a decision table in each one. And each one is a little bit different, a little bit more challenging. Some of them are really easy. Some of them are just a little bit more challenging. So you've got to go through and figure this out. One tip to remember, do nothing sometimes. Make sure you don't omit that if it's an actual choice. Okay? And I won't tell you which ones that applies to, but sometimes it's a viable choice that you need to put in. And lastly, where do we want to go? Let's go back and look at the paper for a second. Operations planning. Here, just look at the rubric. Name, title, date, course. At least 5 references. No Wikipedia. Citations for quotes and graphics provided. If you place a graph or you put a graphic in, tell me where it came from. Try to use good grammar. Don't proofread as badly as I do. Business like writing style, it shouldn't be filled with jargon and slang, but it should be something you could turn into your boss's boss. Always pretend that I am your boss's boss. It makes me feel good. What is sales and operations planning? What's the overview, process, steps, and explanation? If you don't put that, you will lose some of those 10 points. What's the relationship of sales and operations planning to forecasting? You should know what that is. Does sales and operation planning work? What are the challenges? And the challenges are often implementation challenges. They usually have, when sales and operations planning doesn't work, it's usually stillborn, as they say. Personal observations. So, what is sales and operations planning? What does it have to do with forecasting? Does it work? What are their challenges to make it work? If you've worked someplace that has it, relate your personal experience and viewpoint. If you haven't worked at any place where forecasting has been part of the business/organization, base it on your opinion and research. Just make it clear. I really like to see personal observations in almost every paper I get. So notice that. The bulk of the paper is these last 4. There's 40 points. The rest are just like, did you use enough references? Did you write nice? Did you provide a title, name, date, course? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, forgot to tell you. Also, I'm going to have office hours Wednesday again. Same time, same station. A few people called in last week. It was good. If you didn't do well on the first week's homework, call in. I expect to hear you and see you then.